universal, unwholesome
Recording in
universal.
progress.
4, 14, 15, 16, 17, Moha, Ahirika, Anuttapa, Uddhacca, delusion, shamelessness of wrongdoing, Anuttapa, fearlessness of wrongdoing, Uddhacca, restlessness. 4, unwholesome, universal mental factors. The first 4, Moha, Ahirika, Anuttapa, Uddhacca, are called unwholesome universal. That means these mental factors arise with all 12 types of unwholesome consciousness. Whenever an unwholesome consciousness arises, these 4 are always with that consciousness. So these 4 are Moha, Ahirika, Anuttapa, Uddhacca. And another group is unwholesome occasional 10. That is 18, 19, 20. Lova, Deity, Mana. That is the group of 3. That is Creed Triad. Lova is the head, and Lova, Deity, Mana. These 3 are Lova group. And Dosa group. Dosa group, hatred, coated. That is a group of 4 headed by Dosa. Dosa group are Dosa, Asa, Vichariya, Goguja. These are hatred coated. Dosa group have 4 mental factors. And then sloth and torpor, 25, 26. The sloth diet, there is 2 individual. And the last one is Vijikaja, doubt alone. So altogether 14 unwholesome cetasika, mental factors. These, when they are functioning, Sankhara are not wholesome. Sankhara are volitional formation activities are unwholesome. So they are called akusala sankhara. So moha is delusion. Moha is a synonym for avijja, ignorance. You know, avijja, when you study in Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination, moha and avijja are synonymous. They mean the same thing. It is also translated as ignorance. The characteristics of moha is mental blindness or unknowing. It is blindness that means not knowing or not understanding the true nature of Namarupa. It may understand wrongly, but it will not understand correctly. it understand, it not knowing the true nature. The functions of moha is non-perception. When there is moha, when there is delusion, ignorance, we cannot penetrate into the true nature of Namarupa. We do not see the true nature of a psychophysical phenomena. So when we practice meditation, we try not to let moha, not to let avijja enter our minds. When moha or avijja, ignorance is in our minds, we cannot see the true nature of psychophysical process. Or the function of avijja or moha is concealment of the real nature of the object. It is like a blindfold. When you are blindfolded, you don't see things. In the same way, when moha or avijja is blindfolding us, we don't see the true nature of mind and matter. We do not see that Namarupa are impermanent. We do not see that mind and matter are unsatisfactory. We do not see that these phenomena are insubstantial. We don't see. It is manifested as the absence of right understanding or as mental darkness. It is darkness. If there is no light in this room, we cannot see things. That is moha, that is avijja, hiding the true nature of things. The opposite of moha is amoha. Amoha pinya. Amoha is compared to light. When you turn on the light, you see things clearly. So the proximate cause of moha is unwise attention. Ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection, or ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection is the opposite of wisdom or pinya. If there is ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection, there's no wisdom and unwholesome things will develop. So it should be seen as the root of all that is unwholesome. As you know, moha accompanies all 12 types of akusala consciousness, unwholesome consciousness. It is the root of all that is unwholesome. Moha, avijja, sometimes ajnana. Ajnana means not knowing. So moha, avijja, ajnana are synonymous. Moha, not knowing the true nature, what we not know, we wrongly know, We wrongly know the true nature of Namarupa. We don't know the truth, the truth of suffering, the truth of original suffering, the truth of cessation of suffering, Nibbana, and truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, Mega. So the first truth is dukkha sajja, truth of suffering. Seeing is suffering, hearing is suffering. Truth of suffering, dukkha sajja, is not in the book. Where is dukkha sajja, truth of suffering? Truth of suffering is in our body. When we see something, we have to note seeing is dukkha sajja, truth of suffering. Why seeing is suffering? Seeing is just momentary appearance, and the next seeing appear and disappear. Because of the impermanent nature of seeing is suffering. Hearing is also suffering. Because hearing disappears, so long as hearing is coming, you note and you understand that it disappearing. And because of the nature of arising and disappearing, it is hearing is dukkha sajja, truth of suffering. Smelling is suffering, dukkha sajja. Tasting is suffering, dukkha sajja. Touching all kinds of sensations are suffering. And also all thinkings are suffering. Stretching, bending, moving, all the movements are suffering. All the verbal behavior are suffering. Why these phenomena are suffering? Yogi can answer, because you are observing, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, stretching, bending, talking, eating. So all you are observing continuously for many days, many months, you are observing. Do you clearly see these are dukkha sajja, truth of suffering? So these are truth of suffering because they are continuously arising and disappearing. The more you observe, the more it disappears. Because of the nature of impermanence, it is not pleasurable, it is not reliable. We want to depend on each other. We want to depend on each other. But when we depend on others, these phenomena also disappearing very quickly. So if you understand the nature of phenomena, these phenomena are frightening because anytime it can be collapsed totally. But most of the people, they do not practice and they don't know that these seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending are suffering. They don't know. But instead they think these processes are pleasurable and pleasant. So that is avijja. Avijja is like a man who lost all the sense direction. So the man who lost all sense of direction thinks that the east is west, or the north is south, the south is north. He wrongly understands. And the person who does not know the truth of suffering has pleasant view of life, which is full of suffering. It is a mistake to seek the truth of suffering in the book, because the truth of suffering can be discovered and investigated in our body. So all psychophysical phenomena arising at the six senses are suffering. So this phenomenal existence is impermanent, undesirable, and unpleasant. Phenomena can collapse anytime, and so it is pain and suffering. But this suffering is not realized by most of the people who look upon the life as blissful and good. So they seek pleasant sense object, good sight, good sound, good food, etc. Their effort to obtain what they believe to be pleasurable things of life is due to their avijja or moha about their life. Moha or avijja is here like the green glass that makes a horse eat the dry grass, which it mistake for green grass. So we all living beings are mired in sensual pleasures because we see everything through rose-colored glasses. So beings keep hold avijja or moha about the nature of life. And it is like a blind man may be easily deceived by another man. Another man give him a dirty jacket, etc. And he said it is a very good quality jacket. And the blind man will believe him, and he will like that jacket very much. He will be disillusioned only when he recovered his sight, and then he will know he will throw the jacket away at once because it is useless. In the same way, as a victim of moha or avijja, beings enjoy life, being blind to its impermanent suffering and non-self, and they become disenchanted when they understand the true nature of Namarupa. So contemplations of mind and matter or vipassana contemplation has nothing to do with theoretical knowledge. It means thorough watching, the ceaseless contemplation of Namarupa. The practice leads to full awareness of their nature. As your concentration develops, yogi realize they are arising and instant vanishing. So yogi can gain an insight into their true nature. So moha or avijja cover the true nature. One is avijja cover because people are not mindful. If we are not mindful, avijja encourage us. This is man, this is beings, this is woman, this is hand, this is leg, this is face. So these are wrongly knowing. When ordinary person, not mindful to every seeing, hearing, etc., avijja know wrongly everything. Seeing is just namarupa. The true nature of namarupa, he do not know clearly. The seeing, appearing and disappearing, he don't know. The seeing is ugly, he don't know. The seeing is not man, not woman, not living entity, he don't know, because avijja or moha covers. So if the person do not practice meditation, if the person not aware of every arising phenomena, avijja or moha cover everything, he consider as permanent, the beings as permanent, pleasurable, pleasant, etc. So in his life, he don't know the true nature of Namarupa. But we need to understand that the true nature have to be discovered. And to understand the true nature of Namarupa, it is important to note presently arising phenomena. But in the beginning, it is not clear because mindfulness and concentration and understanding not very strong. If the mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom not strong, avijja or moha very fast take over. Now hearing the sounds wave are very clear, eardrums very clear. We have to note hearing, but noting is delay. When noting delay, avijja take over. Avijja take over, and avijja, because of this avijja or moha, he think, I hear, so and so, I hear. Unmindful person cannot capture the eardrums, sound wave, hearing consciousness, momentary appearance of hearing. He do not capture everything. But when yogi practice meditation by noting, seeing, hearing continuously and precisely, all namarupa becomes distance. When sati, samadhi, and wisdom mature and faster. Now yogis noting, rising, falling, sitting, rising, falling, sitting, and itchiness arises. Notice itchiness, quickly note it. This itchiness sensation, itchy sensation, not clear. Is itchiness come from leg, head, or any parts of the body? No leg, no hand, no head, no body, only just itchy sensation coming continuously. That itchy sensation coming continuously, and also when there is hotness or coolness, the sensation coming continuously, and it does not clear that itchy or pain or coolness or hot come from my leg, come from my head, come from my any parts of the body, is not appear. Only just the sensation coming continuously, arising and disappearing, the kinds of nature clear. That is because of the noting getting strengthened. At that moment, avijja cannot cover the true nature. A yogi can realize the true nature of Vedana feeling. So when vipassana knowledge mature, it is the nature of avijja or moha taking over. And when yogis, sati, samadhi, and pinya getting strengthened, avijja have no room to take on. Another mental state is Ahirika and Anuttapa. Ahirika is shamelessness, Anuttapa is fearlessness, shamelessness of wrongdoing, fearlessness of wrongdoings. The characteristics of Ahirika, shamelessness, is the absence of disgust at bodily and verbal misconduct. Ahirika is compared to a village pig which is not disgusted, living in excrement. When there is shamelessness or ahirika in their minds, people will not be ashamed of bodily or verbal misconduct. People will not be ashamed to break the precepts, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, etc. People will not be ashamed to do what is immoral. Another akusala sankhara is anuttapa. The characteristics of anuttapa: fearlessness of wrongdoing is absence of dread on account of such misconduct. Fearlessness means not being afraid of the consequences. I'm not afraid of the consequences when I do something wrong. That is because there is the mental factors of fearlessness in his mind. This fearlessness is compared to a moth which is not afraid of the flame. That is why the moth will go right into the flame and get itself burned. Fearlessness of wrongdoing, uttapa, is compared to a moth. Shamelessness of wrongdoing, hiri, is compared to a village pig. Both hiri and uttapa have the function of doing evil things. They manifest as not shrinking away from evil. When there are ahirika and anuttapa in the minds of person, he is not ashamed of doing immoral things, and he is not afraid of doing these evil things. He don't care about their consequences. And the proximate cause is the lack of respect for self, that is for shamelessness, and lack of respect for other people, respectively. If you have self-respect, you will not do what is immoral. If you are not afraid of being criticized by other people, he will not be afraid of doing wrong things. So lack of self-respect is the proximate cause of shamelessness, and lack of respect for other people is the proximate cause of anuttapa. And they are counterparts of these two, hiri and uttapa. You will see in the beautiful mental factors, beautiful sankhara or kusala sankhara. So another akusala sankhara is odicca, restlessness. Here, restlessness means restlessness of mind. When the mind is restless, the body may be restless too. Restlessness here means mental restlessness, not physical restlessness. Restlessness or agitation has the characteristics of disquietude. It is not quiet. It is like water whipped up by the wind. When there is wind, the water is not still, it is ripple, it is like wave. The functions of udija is to make the mind unsteady as wind makes a banner ripple. You have seen a flag in the wind and how it flutters. When there's windy, the flag fluttering, so it is manifested as turmoil. Udija is compared to ashes which rise up when a rock is thrown into them. When you throw a stone into a heap of ashes, the ashes rises up, and so it is clouded. The literal meaning of the word udija is shaking above the object. So that means the mind cannot take the object properly. The mind is not stuck to the object. So the mind is a little removed from the object. Sometimes yogi don't see the objects clearly because of udija. Also, udija is sometimes described as distraction. People sometimes say distraction for udija. It is mind being not firmly on the object. And the proximate cause of udija is unwise attention to mental disquiet. That means it doesn't understand the real nature of mental disquiet. So it doesn't care whether there is mental quietness or mental disquiet. So these four are grouped at one group, Moha, Ahirika, Nutaba, Udija, because they are present when all types of unwholesome mental consciousness. Whenever an unwholesome consciousness arises, these four arises. So there is an element of ignorance or delusion, moha. There is an element of shamelessness and fearlessness, ahirika and nutaba. And there is also restlessness, udija, when there is an unwholesome consciousness. So when yogi observe Sankharakkhanda, mental pollution and mental formations, these are akusala sankhara, yogi have to note and all have to be rejected. So regarding udija, restlessness, mind wandering, there's a story from Dhammavada, Sankharakkhanda Thera Vitu. At one time, Buddha was residing at the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi, and Buddha uttered the verse, Duringamam, Ekachara, Asariranguhasya, etc., with reference to the nephew of Tera Sankharakkhanda elders. So at one time, there lived in Sawiti a senior bhikkhu by the name of Sankharakkhanda. He had a very good paramis. After becoming a monk, he practiced and he became Arahant. So Sankharakkhanda Thera was an Arahant, and his sister gave birth to a son, and she named her child after the Thera Sankharakkhanda elders. So the nephew came to be known as Sankharakkhanda Bhagineya, that is the nephew of Sankharakkhanda Thera. So the nephew Sankharakkhanda in due course was admitted to the order. While the young bhikkhu was staying in a village monastery, people offered 2 sets of robes. So that young monk intended to offer one robe to his uncle, Sankharakkhanda Thera. So at the end of the vasa, he went to his uncle, who was Arahant, to pay respect to him and offered the robe to the Thera, his uncle. But the uncle declined to accept the robe. The uncle, Sankharakkhanda Thera, said, I have enough robe, you just use it. I have enough robe. So the uncle Thera said to him, although the young monk repeated his request, the Thera could not accept the robes. And the young bhikkhu thought, I intentionally give this robe for my uncle, but my uncle did not accept the robe. And the young monk became disheartened and thought that since my uncle Sankharakkhanda Thera was so unwilling to share the requisites with me, so it would be better for me to leave the order and live the life of the layman. So from that point, the minds of the young monk, Sankharakkhanda Bhagineya, the nephew of Arahant Thera, his mind wandered, and a train of thoughts, uddhacca, followed. So his trains of thoughts was like that. I will leave the order and I will sell the rope, and then I buy a she-goat, and that she-goat would breed quickly, and very soon I will make a lot of money to enable me to marry to marry one girl. And my wife would give birth to a son, and I will take my wife and child in a small cart to visit to my uncle, to pay respect to my uncle at his monastery. On the way, I would say that I will carry the child. My wife would tell me to drive the cart and not to bother about the child. And I would insist and grab the child from her, and between us, the child would drop on the cart, track, and the wheel would pass over the child. So at that moment, I would get so furious with my wife that I would strike her with the golden stick. So that trains of thoughts, Odisha, appeared to the young monk. At that time, the young monk, Sankharakkhanda Bhagineya, was fanning the Thera, who was Arhan with Palmaya fan, and he absent-mindedly struck the head of the Thera with his fan. So the Thera Arhan knew the thoughts of the young monk and say, "You are unable to beat your wife. Why have you beaten an old monk?" The uncle Thera told him. So this young monk was so much surprised and embarrassed at the words of his uh, uncle. Now my uncle knew all my thoughts, the trains of thoughts. He knew it. He knew my thoughts, and the young monk became extremely frightened. So he fled. So when he fled, young bhikkhus and novices of the monastery chased him and finally took him to the presence of the Buddha. So when told about their whole episode, Buddha said that the mind has the ability to think of an object even though it might be far away, and that yogis should strive hard for liberation from the bondage of raga, passion, dosa, evil, and moha, ignorance. Then Buddha spoke a verse, Turingamam ekacharam asariram guhasayam ye chaitan sayamisanti mokhanti marabandhana. That is the nature of mind. The mind wanders far and moves about alone. It is non-material. It lies in the cave chamber of the heart. Those yogis who control their minds will be free from the bonds of Mara. So mind, its nature is wandering, jumping all the time. There may be Odisha. Yogi need to observe very closely. The mind is in the in the cave, in the body, mind is in the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So mind lies in the cave of the heart or body. So yogi have to control their minds by noting every arising object. And when yogi can control, when yogi can observe, every arising mental states will be free from the bonds of Mara. So Buddha spoke this verse, and at the end of the discourse, the young Sankharakkhanda Thera attained Sotapaddi fruition, and also other bhikkhus attained Sotapaddi fruition. So this is regarding Uddhacca. Today we finish Moha, Ahirika, Nuttapa, Uddhacca, and tomorrow we will continue others, Akusala, Sankara, unwholesome, volitional formations. So we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, by noting, rising, falling, sitting, touching, continuously and meticulously. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future. So